Okay. Hey, everyone from the Harriet Magic Hole. This is Nick, and I am going to share some data with you. Now, you know that we have sold patches and stickers and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and that's to pay for our permit and for our fencing, maintaining our saws, and also we bought a data logger. And the data logger was put into the water in early December, and it collects data and it can be set. It's a professional little tiny piece of equipment. I wish I had it next to me. Actually, it's in the lake. It records data and you can set it to different intervals. And so after a couple of joking around experiments of measuring every 10 seconds, I set it to every 15 minutes, put it in the lake. And early December, the lake froze. And the logger was stuck underwater about a foot off of the ground in maybe 5 feet of water. And it was attached to one of the wires that the park board uses to hang on to the swim buoys. So that logger was there. The ice came in fast. I was unable to retrieve it and read the data. And my plan was to read the data often, like every day, and take it out of the hole and measure it, but it was stuck. And it was retrieved and thought that it would have filled up with data and lost most of the season. However, fortunately, somehow, I think I set it to have continuous looping on the recording. So once it's filled up, it erases the oldest day and puts the newest day in. So we have data. That's what I was here to tell you about. So I'm going to share my screen and run you through some of the data so you can see what we have. All right. So this is the image from my phone. I took a screenshot of this, and this is right when it came out of the water. I went to shore and I saw that we still had data from December 5th. So I missed about a day or so. So it was really interesting that because I have some data from the previous days that it first started. I think we put it in the water on the 2nd, the first time. So on the 5th is when it went into the water. And, is some of these measurements 15 minutes, this might have been me screwing around at the lake, at the shore, but there'd be only a couple of those. So I do believe these readings are real because those are later in the day on the 5th and the 6th and so on. But you can see the temperature drop down and it gets below 36 degrees and it stays there. And what was most interesting, and when I showed this picture to people in all of my excitement, it went from on March 13th from being about 36 degrees all the way up to 44 degrees in a period of, this is 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and it went up 10 degrees and noticeably warmer. However, we were all feeling colder, if you remember. And I think some of the open water, because the ice had just about, actually the ice went out a little bit after this, because as soon as the ice was out is when I retrieved this. But anyway, there were some days that it was, I think we had our walkway. So we did have some open water. So it was a little bit more movement in the water. That may be why we felt colder, but definitely the water was getting warmer. And I can tell you the last few days, which were April 15th and 14th or something, were the coldest dips that I've had all year. So, I guess it's not related to the actual temperature of the water. So let's look at a couple of charts. So here is, that same data from the logger in an Excel chart that I put together. By the way, I'll make this all available to anybody who's curious. So you can see we started at about 39.4 and we came down to 35.6. These are averages of the day, and there's multiple measurements that are captured during the day, and then it only stores, every 15 minutes. So, but it captures a variety of stuff before it does that. So it tries to reduce errors. And then it went up to, it was April 4th when we were at 44. So on 4/4, we're at 44. So there you go. That's for Ricky. So, but when we look at the air temperature, this is also quite interesting. In fact, I think what I'll do is I'll drop these lines for a second so we can see this a little bit more clearly. And the top line is a high temperature of the day. So this was 65 on March 21st. You might remember that. There were some warm days in December when we had some panic, going on. And actually, no, it was when we got into the 40s over here, I think, around January, where we had some melt on the surface because it was really sunny and 40. You can see the water temperature was staying steady, as we saw. Now, we changed the scale to fit the temperature, air temps in. So this doesn't have quite the dramatic climb. It's still the same data. It just comes up 10 degrees. Now look at this as a moving average. This trend line is a moving average of the high temperature of the day. Again, these are low temperatures, so we're below zero. A lot of time there, and a lot of time sitting in the 10 to 15. And then we get to some of these days. So when this starts to curl up, it's curling up the same time these warm temperatures are coming, and it's probably just building up momentum at that point. And with these warm days and that just, I think, is kind of what started to, let's say, break this. And it seems like it sort of slowed down for a couple of days and started to peak back up and slow down. And it came, and so it's it's working its way up. But I don't know, if I had to guess, and I look at this mountain and the 7-day rolling average, I'm guessing that was a bit of it was just the air temperature, and then the sunshine, which all those days I believe had a lot of sun. Those days warming things, and if you remember, the ice was starting to get thin. We were feeling it from below. So that's what's there. Just in case you want to play with the data, this is a daily temperature data. Source is here. This is from the DNR, and I kind of organized it by season a little bit and did some other things. The data logger tabs are in yellow. There's that image we looked at. This is the raw data, and you can see it just is grabbing every 15 minutes. So for December 5th, I mean, this whole page is December 5th. It's not a ton of data, but it's a good amount. And then there's some other pieces of info that come through from the device. The device name is HMH Nicholas Garvis. I only have my name on it because I want if someone finds it, and by some chance they know what it is and they log in, they'll be able to find us and get that thing back. So anyway, so that's the data. We've got some interesting stuff here. I will share this with a limnologist who specifically is into lake temperature modeling. I'll share this with him and then possibly arrange a call, because when I get into conversations about this stuff, and even with people who know about lakes generally, we get into the freeze thaw cycles and how it's all happening, and what does the solar energy look like, and is it penetrating through the ice, and there's radiation involved in the warming that's happening, and all this kind of stuff. It's super interesting, and it's probably one day's lecture in a course of study if it's an undergrad. But maybe we can kind of pull some of that day into a conversation, learn more about this stuff together, because I dig it. I think a lot of you do too. So anyway, I will include a link to a public version of this file so you can download it and play with it. If you find anything, create anything interesting with this, please share it back. And you can do that by sending me an email or whatever. So anyway, so it's going to go into the Harriet Magic Hole Google Drive with public access to it. All right, everyone. Thank you. And it's been a great season. Cheers.